Hi, in this lesson, we'll begin looking at arrays. Let's get started. In Unit 5, we looked at creating a trivia class that selected random questions from a pre-created list. Each question needed to have its own variable, and we needed conditional statements to select our question based on a randomly generated number. If we wanted to extend our trivia class to 100 questions, this becomes a tedious process, not only with the variables, but also the conditional statements to select the question. Let's take a look at a better way. Arrays are objects that can store many values of the same type. Arrays are simply a list of elements, all of the same type. They can be either primitive types, such as int, double, or Boolean values, or objects such as strings or any other reference types you may create. While arrays can store any number or any type, once the array is created, the size and the type of variable cannot change. In this example, we are creating an array with 5 integers. While you can create an array of any size, once the array has been created, the size is fixed. An array with 5 integers will always be an array of size 5 and type int. You cannot add a 6th element, take one away, or store other types, such as a string or double, in this array. The array is a list of values. Here, the values of the array are represented by the black numbers. The blue numbers represent the index position of an element in the array. In this case, our array that contains 5 elements has index values from 0 to 4. There are 2 ways to create arrays. The first and more common method is to make an array with default values. We can create an array of any type by adding empty square brackets after the type on the left side. The right side is similar to creating an object, but we use square brackets with the number of elements that we want to create inside the brackets. Notice that this creates an array of 5 integers, all with initial values of 0. When we create arrays with default values, Java assigns a specific value for each item in the array depending on the type. Integers and doubles default to 0, Booleans default to false, and objects, including strings, default to null. We can also create arrays with an initialized list. Notice how the left side of the statement is the same as before. The right side now has a list of elements enclosed in curly brackets. This creates a 5-element array of integers. We can actually make an array with any type of element. Here are some examples with default values. Here are some examples with initial values. Here's the syntax for creating any array. The type on the left side followed by empty square brackets, followed by the variable name. After the assignment operator, for a default array, we use the keyword new and then the type again, but this time followed by square brackets with the number of elements inside the brackets. For an array with initial values, we use curly brackets to enclose our list of initial values. To access values in the array, we reference the variable name followed by the index value inside of square brackets. In this example, we are accessing the value at index 2 of the scores array. We then assign that value to a new integer variable called ida_score. Setting a value in an array is similar. To assign a value, we select the element of the array by referencing the variable followed by the index inside of square brackets. Then assign the new value to that index in the list. Java and nearly every other programming language uses a 0 index to start arrays. This should sound familiar as we saw the idea of 0 indexing in our strings. What this means is that the first element in the array has an index value of 0. To get the length of an array, we use .length after the array variable name. Note, there are no parentheses after the keyword length. This is different from strings, where we got the length of a string by using .length with open and close parentheses. Since our index starts at 0, the index value of the last item will always be 1 less than the length. For example, this array has 5 items. The length will be 5, but the index values go from 0 to 4. Notice in this array, we have 5 elements, but the index values go from 0 to 4. When we try to access the last element by referring to index 5, we get an array index out of bounds exception error. When we change the value to 4, we successfully return the last value in the array. One of the key things to remember about arrays is that they are fixed size and all elements have to be the same type. Now that you've learned about arrays, let's get some practice using them in the editor.